Remember back in 2008 when Obama said this?
We are 5 days away from fundamentally transforming the United States of America.
Yeah, has he succeeded in doing just that? Monica Crowley, author of What the Bleep Just Happened Again, out now in paperback. She's also a very good friend and a Fox News contributor. Monica, it's a pleasure.
Hi, Dana. Great to be with you.
Good to be with you as well. Back, you saw that soundbite in 2008. The president said, we're going to fundamentally transform America. A lot of us were wondering, well, what do you mean fundamentally transform? We kind of like America the way that it is. What was he aiming for? What was he talking about?
Well, 4 years ago when he was first running for president, Dana, when he said those words, and he often also said remaking America, and he would invoke that great phrase, a more perfect union. Part of his genius at the time was allowing an ambiguity to it. So everybody who heard those phrases, especially fundamentally transform the nation, assigned their own meanings to what they thought he meant by it. And what I've been arguing, and you and Glenn, we've all been arguing, no, don't pay attention to what you think he meant by those words. Pay attention to what he meant. And now here we are 4+ years later, and we have all of this evidence as to exactly what he meant by that. Obama set off right from the beginning to fundamentally transform the nation away from a society that's built on self-sufficiency and individual freedom and free market economics and toward a government dependency and welfare state. And he went about it in a very systematic way. He went about it really fast. And he went about it primarily, Dana, by going after the 4 main pillars of the U.S. economy: the industrial base, the financial sector, the energy sector, and of course the healthcare sector. And by attacking all 4 pillars of American capitalism in that way, he's had enormous success in transforming the very thing that buoys us, which is our free market capitalism, our free market system, and the thing that has created not just a great society, but a good one, too.
Exactly. And in the very beginning of the first 2 years when Democrats held both chambers, we all asked, okay, he's really pushing health care. There's a number of other things that can be, that deserve attention. But he went after those 4 pillars, just as you mentioned. He went after health care. He immediately did the very things necessary to kickstart that change, beginning with our economy, and health care was the best place to do it. And now we're seeing the results of that, Monica. There are even leftists complaining about the decrease in their paychecks at the same time they're seeing their premiums go up a couple $100s a month. There's one big transformation.
Exactly. You know what, Dana, when he came into office, the economy was in really, really bad shape, and we can argue that it still is. But when he first came in, he said, look, and when he ran and won, he was saying, look, here's my message. I'm going to fix this economy. I'm going to get America back on track. The American people were screaming about the bad state of the economy, and they were screaming for jobs. And yet when he comes in, the first thing he does is look over to Congress and have them write the nearly $1 trillion stimulus. Doesn't get involved with that until it's time to sign it. Right. Then he goes right after health care. Why? Because health care is the crown jewel of the welfare state. And when you look at the history of socialism, Dana, every single socialist state, as soon as the socialists grab power, one of the very first things they do is try to transform the health care system, make it into socialized medicine. Why? Because if the government controls your health care, the government controls you. Health care reform was never about health care. It was about government power and control.
One of the things I've always wondered when he set out with Obamacare, and I've had this discussion before with folks, when he set out with Obamacare, was limiting religious freedoms and civil rights in Obamacare. Was that just a happy, accident I don't think anything's an accident, but was that just, a collateral damage? Was that the real intent, to really go after civil liberties and really limit First Amendment rights with regards to religious exemption? What is your take on that?
All of this is by design, Dana. I mean, it amuses me when I hear a lot of people, even some on our side, say, well, Obama's incompetent, or he's naive, he's in over his head, he doesn't understand how the market works, or he doesn't really understand the healthcare system. That is a load of you-know-what. This is a man who we were told 4 years ago had something like 180 IQ, so brilliant, the most brilliant guy to ever run for president, and now we're supposed to believe he's some kind of big dummy who doesn't know what he's doing. He knows exactly what he's doing in every point that you just mentioned. And remember, when you talk about whether it's healthcare reform or the financial legislation, all of these different things never have to do with the superficial issue. It's all about that fundamental transformation of the nation and getting government more and more power. And as we all know, when government accrues more power, that means less freedom for us.
And that transformation we're continuing to see with increased dependency on government. I mean, the statistics that you get into in your book as well, food stamp participation has gone up every single month. I mean, since he's been in office. I mean, this is some scary stuff. We're seeing a record number of Americans receiving food stamps. I think USA Today did a poll where they show 1 out of every 5 Americans is receiving some sort of government assistance.
Yes, and that is precisely the point. Again, Dana, this is all by design. When Obama came in, there were 3 big objectives. Number 1, to expand government as fast and as widespread as possible. The ultimate objective of that is to expand the number of people dependent on government as fast and as widespread as possible. And of course, the ultimate objective of both of those things is to create a permanent Democrat voting majority so that you'll never again get a Ronald Reagan as president. You may never even get a George W. Bush, for goodness sakes. Yeah. It's all about creating massive dependency, locking people in, getting them addicted to the narcotics of entitlements, whether it's Obamacare or the food stamp program, because once they're locked in, they may be locked in for life. That is precisely the point. This is what we're up against.
And we see a lot of decisions, too, being made at the executive level, or we just go into lawfare with the Supreme Court, a number of different suits being brought before the Supreme Court. One of the things that this president seems, from my perspective, he shares a similarity here with FDR in attempting to stack the courts. Is that something that we need to really be concerned about? Because I know during the last election, a lot of folks were saying, oh, the Supreme Court nominations, that's not as bad as something else. And I want to shake people and be like, are you serious? Because that's supposed to be kind of one of the last guards, isn't it?
That's so right, Dana, and this is a really great point. The American mind is in many ways idealistic still, and so we always want to think that there's one more bulwark against tyranny. So we tend to think, oh, Congress will never go along with that, or, oh, the courts, they'll never go along with, say, socialized medicine, hello, or Sharia, hello. So, you know what, it's up to us, it's up to the American people, because, you know, as you point out, the courts, which we often think, well, it's sort of a rarefied universe there with the courts and these judges and the men in black, and so we shouldn't really be paying attention to it. I was just having a conversation the other day. If Hillary Clinton wins in 2016, that is the end, literally the end of America as the idea of freedom and self-sufficiency and individual liberty, because if she gets in, you're going to see that fundamental transformation that Obama started, you're going to see that locked down and made permanent. And then, of course, you're going to see the courts transformed, because the conservatives we have in the Supreme Court, the conservatives we have at the appellate level, and all the way down, Dana, they're getting up there in years, and they can't hang on much longer. So that will literally be the end of America as we know it.
That absolutely terrifies me. And I know she's going to run. She's getting ready. She's hiring people for her PAC and everything else. That's sure. Absolutely going to happen. Now this. And what the bleep just happened again. I love this book because you really get into kind of, you know, the psyche behind this a little bit as well. I mean, the president, even when before he was ever elected into office and when he was out there campaigning, it felt as though he was trying to restructure the DNA of America, that instead of this being a land of opportunity, this is a land of entitlement. You can come into our country. Look, we'll set you up with government entitlements, so on and so forth, where it's like we're doing a bait and switch on people who are immigrating to the country. They're exchanging one third world country almost for another.
Yeah, and it's one form of slavery toward another form of slavery. But again, this is exactly the point. Remember, Dana, that Barack Obama comes out of that far left ideology and tradition where America is no good. America is neither great nor good. Everything that America has tried to do at home and in the world is full of sin and injustice. And therefore, he, being the president who represents the far left and represents that ideology, has set out to take America down a notch or 2 or 10. And he's done it here at home, and he's doing it abroad as well. We have a lot to fight. What the bleep just happened again, now out in paperback. Monica Crowley, it's always a pleasure to talk with you. Good to see you, my friend. Thanks for joining me. Great to see you too, Dana. You bet. Thanks. Take care.